The question in my mind is, how do you create or relaunch a highly profitable and successful 6 to 7 figure business? With so much conflicting advice about the best ways to start and grow your business, how do you get it right the first time? I want to help entrepreneurs make a real difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. My name is John North, and this is the Startup Secrets for Entrepreneur Show. Join me today when we dig deep with our guests and get you the best blueprint so you can fast track your own business. This episode is sponsored by Evolvepreneur.app, your all-in-one online business system. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. So let's get into today's episode.
Hey everyone, my name is KM. We're just on the Evolvepreneur Secrets Show with John. What an amazing episode. You guys should definitely tune in. We spoke about all things from social media, real estate, trust, processes, and you should definitely tune in. Amazing episode. Cheers.
You're listening to the Evolvepreneur Secrets Show for entrepreneurs, and I'm John North, your host, and my mission is to help entrepreneurs to make a difference in the world and basically get more understanding about things that happen and how to actually adapt and evolve to it. So we're going to dig deep on our guests, and today I've got Kyrillos Mansour, which is KM, if I can screw up his name, which is he's actually a real estate, I'll probably get into a little bit of it. He actually sells real estate online, but it's a very different kind of approach. And he's got an entrepreneurial mindset, which a lot of real estate agents don't necessarily have, so should be an interesting interview. He attained a master's optometry, so he's actually an optometrist, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Everybody's learned something and ends up being in the same thing they learned from. It's quite interesting, and particularly in entrepreneurship. I think it's like you learn something just to learn it. You don't actually learn it because you want to be one. And got a passion in business, run 2 businesses previously. It's a property buyers agency based in Sydney called First Brick Property, and he's very passionate about helping people become financially free. So to tell us, what did you do to get to here? Like, obviously you started as optometrist. What you like, was that after school, because you're not that old by the looks of you?
After school, so we finished school, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew I wanted to get into some sort of business, and I had some offers to do to study business at the University of Sydney, but it just seemed like a waste of time in my mind. It seemed 4 years to get a business degree, and I mean everyone's got a business degree, right? So
yeah.
What does it really mean? And does it help you get a job? Does it help you start a business? And so I wasn't too keen on doing a business degree. And then my best mate told me, "Hey, I'm moving to Geelong to study optometry. You want to come?" I said, "Oh, I don't know. Let me look into it." And I looked into it for like 2 minutes. And
no joke intended, right? No pun intended. Let me look into it.
yeah, that's it. No pun intended, mate. And it's a 5-year degree, but if you didn't take any breaks, like no holidays or whatnot, you could do it in 3.5 years. And I thought to myself, well, you don't need a business degree to do business, but generally you need a bit of money, and optometry pays well. So I said, yeah, let's do it. So I moved to Geelong with my mate, and we studied optometry, and I hated every second of it, of the study anyway. Living in Geelong was a nice experience, but the study and whatnot, yeah, it wasn't for me, but it was a tool to get to where I needed to be.
Mm. Oh, it's fall back on it, I suppose, worst case scenario, right?
Yeah, that's it. Still registered. So not that I've practiced though.
Well, it's a big money spinner. I've got to tell you, every time I go to the optometrist, I seem to come out much poorer results.
Yeah, when I was working, as an optometrist, you get your glasses and whatnot for free. And then recently I had to purchase glasses, and obviously not working, and I was like, oh, that's expensive.
Yeah.
So now I know how my patients felt.
The trouble is, you're actually helping people see, I suppose, it's something they want, right?
That's it.
So, in terms, and I think you're right in terms of this kind of university kind of stuff is where you're learning business, and I think it's, in some respects, I guess the old theory is you're learning something to show somebody can learn something, but I think I worry that what they teach them has got nothing to do with anything. I was actually talking to a guy. I was at a conference, Elite Marketers, yesterday. And I was talking to this guy that actually his kid finished school, and he said like he was learning all this business stuff, and it was so irrelevant that he said he'd rather just running his own business and learning as he goes than it would be to try and learn that stuff. And I think maybe that's more for corporate. I don't think that business skill is really an entrepreneur's business skill. It's really like giving you the framework for a larger type of business, I think.
Yeah, I think so. When I looked into it, it was very much, large scale operations, large scale HR kind of subjects and whatnot. And I read a book called My Personal MBA, or The Personal MBA, something like that. And essentially he's done an MBA, the author, and he's written what is the key points of this MBA. And it's a pretty thick book. And I read it and realized, this is all, if you're trying to be an exec in a big company, it's not really got anything to do with being an entrepreneur and, starting a small business. And obviously there are lessons, but you could probably save yourself a lot of hex by not going to do that.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, maybe it's more for people who want to actually get employed in a larger business. At the end of the day, it's not necessarily. So I think the entrepreneur journey is something that, and it seems like I hear it all the time. The same with me, right? I worked for a bank for 12 years and ended up being self-employed for like 30 years. And I happened to by mistake, and I think it's the same principle yours. Like you start off on one journey thinking it's okay, and then you sort of pivot to something else, and then suddenly the entrepreneurial thing kicks in, and I think that's when people sort of think, oh, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to try something else that's more interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how did you end up in real estate of all things, though? Like, was it something that you did personally and then sort of moved into it, or?
Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, I always had this entrepreneurial, these tendencies, to be honest, when I was young, and I was doing stuff that, a 6-7 year old shouldn't be doing. Like, you should be playing sports and whatnot. And I was like trying to raffle tickets and sell my toys and whatnot on the driveway. And so I was just doing weird stuff. And it kind of carried on with me. And, when I was at university, I had a perfume and makeup business, and I was selling perfume and makeup to my lecturers in the exams and whatnot. And
I used to sell chook eggs when I was about 11. So I had chook eggs business.
That's it. And I was selling running socks for a guy. He actually ran for Australia in the Commonwealth Games. I won't mention his name, but he created a great product, but he couldn't sell anything. So I was selling socks and perfume and makeup, and it's just what I enjoyed doing. And then my dad sent me a book. He probably got this book from a seminar, and my dad doesn't read books. And it was called My 4-Year-Old The Property Investor. And he sent it to me when I was in Geelong, and I was like, oh, I've got nothing to do. Geelong's a bit boring. So at the time anyway, there's nothing there. So I read this book, and it changed my mindset about everything. I was like, wow, this is real estate. There's money in real estate. So I started just educating myself on using every single platform to learn about real estate. Social media, sites, podcasts, blogs, books. A lot of books at the time was more popular than podcasts were back then. And I just knew everything there was to know about property, genuinely. And so I started, when I graduated uni, I sold my perfume and makeup business, and I got my first contract as an optometrist, and I went to the bank. They gave me money. And then they said, go buy what you want to buy. And then I was like, great, I've got all this theory on how to buy property and how to create a portfolio. But no one's actually told me, how do I pick the spot? How do I pick the right location or the right property? So I did more research.
And a lot of that's emotional, right? I think that most people, when I used to work in the bank stuff, they're very emotional based, particularly when you're buying a home.
Correct.
Buying investment property is a little best, but some people are very emotional about things that cloud their actual logic, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's, part of, a big part of our business and what we do, and trying to remove that emotion. But yeah, I just didn't know. And so I just started researching it, and everyone kept talking about data. You got to use data to find the right investment spots. And I was like, well, what data? So I really delved deep. And then I started building my own spreadsheets just for myself. And then eventually found, a property, bought something. But then after that, I was really interested. So I kept updating and building my spreadsheets. And it got to a point where I covered every single suburb in Australia. And, we're talking over 100 to 150 data points per suburb. And then my friends are like, hey, help me and I would help them buy property and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, most of my friends don't appreciate an Excel spreadsheet, but one of my friends is an accountant, and I was like,
Isn't
hey,
it a quiet taste, right?
yeah, it
As soon as
is,
they
it
see
is.
it, their eyes glaze over. I see it happen.
Like, it's a bunch of numbers. But then I was showing my mate who's an accountant. I said, "Hey, look at my spreadsheet." And he's like, "Oh, that's really cool." And I was telling him, I helped all these people. And he's like, "Do you know you can get paid to do this?" I said, "What?" So, yeah, someone's going to pay me to buy property for him. That's mad. And he said, "Yeah, it's called a buyer's agency." So I looked into it, and I actually already had my real estate license.
Right.
So I had done my license just because, like, during that phase when I was educating myself, I was educating myself. Like, I did the license for no reason but just to know what the real
And I
estate
mean, it
agent.
isn't that hard to get a real estate license, really, is it? Like, it
Yeah,
shouldn't
well, the real
take that
estate
long.
certificate is like a 2-day thing,
Mm,
but the license at the time was a 2-year
mm,
diploma.
mm.
So it took me 2 years to get the license, and I had no intention of using it.
Right.
Just to get the education. So the license lets you run a a agency. A
Mm-hmm.
certificate lets you work as an agent. So
Right.
I had the full license, and I wanted to know everything they knew. So when he told me about this buyer's agency thing, I looked into it, and I was like, yeah, well, I've already got my real estate license. I can help people buy property. I
Mm,
like to help people. I like property.
mm.
I quit my job, and I started first brick.
Right.
Yeah,
Nice.
straight
And
away.
yeah. And so, how did you get your first customers? Like, was that more friends and family kind of referral kind of stuff, or did you
Yeah.
think of something way to try and get those people?
So there's a lot of free work. So
Mm.
there's a lot of free work because
Yeah,
I
it
think
was the
when I
way the first days.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when I started, I think it was 4.5 years, 5 years ago, buyer's agents were very, very small. It's still very, very small now. And most people don't know what a buyer's agent is today. But
Mm.
5 years ago, there was a lot less knowledge of what it was.
Yep.
And so people didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't even know what a buyer's agent was until someone told me, right? So now, there's shows on Netflix, luxury listings and whatnot. So people are getting exposed to it. And there's
Mm.
a few more buyer's agents out there. But 5 years ago, genuinely, my friends, my family, no one knew what it was.
Mm.
So a lot of what I did was, a lot of what I was doing was educating people just of what we do,
Mm.
and that's why there was so much free work. I said, well, let me do it for you, and let me show you the benefits of using a buyer's agent,
Mm.
and let me show you the benefits of of how much time it can save you. Let me show you the value I can bring.
Mm.
And then with the idea of obviously all this free work, eventually someone's going to tell someone, and then that someone might pay me a little bit. And then
Mm.
so it took me about 6 months to get my first paying client, and I charged them like $2,000, which is
And I
not
think the thing you
a
remember with
lot.
this scenario with buying real estate, right, is no one is on your side when you go to buy real estate, right? The bank isn't on your side. They just want to lend you the money. They don't really care what you buy as long as they can get their money back if you don't pay, right? Real
Yeah,
estate agent who's selling you the property doesn't care. He's working for the guy to sell it, right? So no one in this mix really cares about the person buying it. And the thing that scares me the most with real estate is that you can, if you try and buy a car or do pretty much anything else, you go through the ringer. When you buy real estate, they just let you buy it. Like they don't tell you, oh, by the way, like there's a massive cost over here that's going to come up or anything like that. No one warns you about any of that, right? So they never look into it. So it's on you. Buyer beware, right?
it's all buyer beware.
And I think
It's all
it's
buyer beware.
worthwhile. It's almost like having an extra check on something for someone else's mind to look at something that'd be worth the investment. Because I don't know what you're charging now, but even $2,000 to find out this property is not suitable is probably the best money you'll ever spend.
Yeah, it's you're 100% right. One of the biggest value adds, or is making sure you don't get it wrong, as
Mm,
opposed to getting it right, as well as getting it right. But not getting it wrong is really important. And because getting it wrong can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Control your destiny and create a complete business system for your online business. Evolvepreneur.app offers an easy and cost-effective way to build your online business by helping you avoid the pain and stress of implementing multiple systems, giving you the freedom to automate and scale. Support our sponsor by grabbing a free copy of Startup Secrets for Entrepreneurs at evolvepreneur.app. Because you
We,
don't struggle with it.
we were just at, yeah, I was just at an auction the other day. I was talking pre-show about it with you, and that property broke a suburb record.
Mm,
But that property didn't even have an OC, an occupation certificate.
right.
So if someone found out, if council found out something,
Mm.
well, they wouldn't be able to live there. And that was a $2.2 million sale.
Yeah,
And
block of
that's on
land,
the buyers.
$2.2 million block of land now.
Yeah, it's a buyer beware. And
Mm.
so a big part of our value for sure was helping people not get it wrong. So yeah, it took about 6 months to get our first paying client and only charge them two grand, which, obviously was just paying for stuff and data and information. And then it just, that person 3 months later told one guy, and I was just doing free work in between and just kept doing that. And then we did have a social media presence, and all of our social media stuff was just about educating people on what we do and how we can bring value, and using it some sort of a way to, like, social proofing. This guy knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
He's an industry expert. Come and have a chat and then see how we can help you. Eventually, all that free work and all the networking that we did with, brokers, accountants, financial planners, solicitors, all of it got to a point where it just started to click. And probably like a year and a half later. And I remember I was just like, when's this going to work? And then all of a sudden it worked. And I had spoken to some buyers agents before that, who are quite nice people and very successful. And I said, I'm doing all the right things. What's going on? And they said, trust me, it'll just happen. And that was the worst answer you could have given me, because what does that mean? It's just going to happen. Like, you're telling me there's nothing I can do to change the outcome. It's just going to happen. But sure enough, it just happened. And in 1 month, we just signed like 10 clients at our full service fee. And it was an accumulation of all the free work we had done, the referrals from them, the word of mouth, the domino effect, plus our social media stuff, plus like it just everything kind of hit at once. And then I was like, oh man, we have way too much work. I was like, this
never wins, eh? You can't just have a nice flat thing scenario. Just nice, the right regular stuff. It's
either boom or bust. So, but that's kind of how it happened from like the first client till where we are today. It's just continued to grow ever since.
And I think it's like the old stone in the water kind of ripple effect, right? Like you toss it out there and nothing really happens, and then suddenly, and I've done a lot of books and stuff, and suddenly you talk to someone who's read your book or something and said, oh, I did this, and you think, well, I didn't even know that. Like it's like stuff that you see, that you send out, you never see back, and then suddenly it has that effect. And so I think that's the hard part, is that you don't really know what's going on out there in their mind at the time, and how they happen across you. And a lot of times it's by accident as well. Like, oh, this is just somehow managed to there. But it's about layering on that extra activity, because activity does equal results at the end of the day. It's just a matter of how much activity you're willing to do to get there.
That's true.
And I think one of the things that I sort of like, and I talked about it before, was that my feeling is that, and I've been in this game a long time, so I've seen a lot of things come and go. And I think what happens is people's reliance on social media as a marketing tool, given that the big tech can just shut you down tomorrow. And I mean, real estate's probably not too bad, but if you're in medical or any sort of industries that actually are very highly regulated, in real estate to a degree is, particularly when you're lending money, you can get banned or shut down on social media quite easily. And there's a risk factor of growing that, and having a lot of followers, and suddenly tomorrow you don't have them anymore. And I think the concept of understanding is probably, no pun intended, but your own bricks and mortar thinking, right? Because at the end of the day, it's your business you're creating, and you shouldn't be told what to do in your own business.
Yeah.
And I think that part of the problem is now that these big techs are starting to tell you what you do and what you can't do and what you can't say. And I think that's an area that small business, in particular entrepreneurs, need to understand, because I think just feeding that engine and hoping it's all going to happen, and not be able to control it is to me is like dangerous, because you don't know what's going to happen next. And so one of the things that I feel like, you should be thinking like your own media company. I think if you start saying, okay, well, if I know about my stuff about real estate and agents buying, I should be the go-to place for that, then I should be a media place to actually come and get that information from as a source. And I think if you start thinking that way, it's just a mindset change. It's not much more than that. But I think it's a way of kind of preventing you and future-proofing it, and being able to realise that you are the business, not those social media pages as such.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. And I think social media is very important for building brands and whatnot, but it's a tool that we use for our, like you mentioned, bringing the info back to us and bringing people back to you, where you are, you're your own brand. You're not Facebook's brand or someone else's brand. Like, and if Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is, shut down tomorrow, a lot of people would be like, well, what do we do? And you can see a lot more now, like with TikTok, especially. I think you have a lot more TikTok influencers or whatever they're called.
Which I can't even realize that's a real job. I can't get my head around that one.
and making, lots and lots of money off it. But if that was to disappear, where would they go? What would they do? And I think it's, it's important that, I think if you're providing value, and so all of the stuff we do, everything links back to our website, everything links back to, you get on a mail list and, you're always going to get information. Yeah. It's just about showing, hey, here's information that we're giving you now. And, we're using the social networks to distribute that. But if this wasn't here, nothing changes on our end, because we've built our own brand, and then you'll be able to find us somewhere else, and we'll be able to educate you differently, and we'll be able to talk to you. And that's why it's good to do these, podcasts and whatnot, because these are completely independent. No one's controlling it. No one's telling you what to say and what you can't say.
Exactly.
And you're right. Like sometimes, we don't really do ads, but the couple of times we've tried to do ads, it gets blocked because you can't do ads on financial advice.
Pretty much can't do ads on anything. I've discovered over the years. It's almost
pretty much. So it's like, even if we wanted to utilize their ad service, we can't even do that. So it's just really about bringing that free value to people via the socials, and then bringing them back to you via websites or just getting on the phone with you and building your own lists and building your own, blogs and whatnot. So it's completely independent.
So one of the things that it's a PR term, they call it earned media. So basically you have to go out there and you have to earn it. You can't pay for it. So you get on TV or that sort of stuff. And I think that's highly much better value, because you've actually earned to get there and rather than just paid to get there. But the downside is obviously it's much, much more hard work. And one of the things that, and I haven't actually, I quickly checked your website, but I'm not sure whether you necessarily do this, but a lot of the times when you go to websites, one of the things they don't think about is what happens when the media comes to my website, what happens. And if you're smart, you put a media link up there, and there can be a menu option or whatever, it just says media. And what happens is you build out that section purely for the media that comes there and make it easy for them. So you give them the information, you give them screens, like images, videos, stuff they can use, content they just copy and paste, because they're all going to be, they're busy, lazy people with the media, right? They'll just grab whatever they can, and they screw it up. Yeah. And that's it. You've lost your chance. So getting that right and having a media, what we call one sheets and things like that, to make it really incredibly easy for someone to actually just take it and, I can interview you, here all is something I don't think a lot of people know. And I think you can always tell people to understand the difference between, the comings and goings of social media if they have a media page. And
for sure. For sure. I mean, I hope you didn't criticize our website too much.
Because I didn't look. I looked quickly, so it looked pretty good to me. But I didn't actually go into the media side.
It's under construction. There's a completely new website coming. So what you're seeing now is just like a dummy website. So there's something brand new coming.
Somebody's always, something. No one's ever happy with their website. I've found out.
Yeah, no one is. We're always changing our websites, and but yeah, earned media. You're right. Like on Instagram, I've done social media for a long time, and we post very consistently, and quite often, as twice a day. And it's but again, it's about bringing things to you. But it's all organic, and so I know how it works. And then sometimes I'll see a page, 20 posts, 800,000 followers. Well, obviously, it's really clear that that's paid for. We're on like 800 posts with 1,000 followers.
Yeah. So, posting quantity doesn't equal followers, right?
Correct. But it's it's about, like, sometimes it's just clear, and it's clear when it's fake.
Mm.
But you can't fake, when you're on, like when you're on the TV, on the news, or being interviewed or something. You're
Yeah.
right, it's earned media, and it adds to that. It adds to the social proofing, but I think like a times 10, x 10,
Mm.
um, to your reputation and your industry expert, evaluations and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the trick, is becoming that industry expert in that particular area, and people understanding what. Because most people will come to you because of your knowledge. They won't come to you because of your business name or your logo or anything like that. They're going to come because of the knowledge that you might be able to help them save money or make money.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that people forget, is that that's what people are naturally attracted to. They're not attracted necessarily to big corporate looking places. Like, they don't necessarily want that. They want that. Know that the person they're dealing with knows what they're talking about, and they're not going to get ripped off or told the wrong thing. And I think that's the risk factor. The funny thing about Australians, as I discovered, was that Australians have the lowest trust levels in the world. And it seems to be like one of the biggest scam places in the world too. So I don't know how to get that one. So how can Australians have the lowest trust level, yet we pay out a lot of money in scams, right?
Wait.
But that's the thing, is about that trust level, and that's the difference between someone doing business with you or not. I think if they don't trust you from the get-go, then you're never going to earn that trust easily. It's always that level of mistrust that's going to bring you down.
Yeah, trust is everything. We just hired someone part-time join us, and they'll be going full-time soon. And when we're going through the process with them from A to Z on how we take care of our customers and whatnot, I said to them, the biggest part about this is they got to trust you, because you're taking care of their $500,000, 1 million, $1.5 million.
Probably
Like,
one of the biggest lifetime purchases some people ever make, right?
usually it is the biggest. Not a lot of times people are spending more than $1 million on something. So,
Mm.
give or take. So it's often their biggest asset, or the biggest purchase, the most emotional time they'll go through trying to buy these properties. It's very stressful. And I said, if they don't trust you, you've lost them straight away.
Mm.
Even if they're a client and they don't trust you, and it's just going to be a headache from start to finish. You're going to be fighting with them. You're not going to be working for them, working with them. And so you're right. It's trust is a huge part about it. And you can't. I don't think you can fake trust. I think it has to be pretty real. And you are right. Australians are skeptics.
I
Yeah,
reckon if you make it in an Australian market, you can make it anywhere.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I look at the US market, it's like, oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
But the Australia, the amount of conversations I've had with people, and which is completely fine, I get it. But it's just so much tension and so much uneasiness around just saying yes. And what I find is, most of the time, once they say yes, they completely switch, and like they're extremely trusting, and
They've
maybe
made the decision between, to make a decision, I guess.
yeah, that's right. And I think it's just that bit before, but once they do become extremely trusting, they obviously get the rewards out of it, and working with good people. But and I think you should be a bit skeptic, because you don't know who you're talking to unless you see and do your proper due diligence, and look them up and research them and whatnot. So yeah, it's an interesting point.
It's kind of crazy, because I bought this house I'm in now. I've been here for 20 years in this house, right? I bought it in 2 hours.
Yeah.
I went for a drive out this way. There was a bunch of buildings, like 30 houses for sale. Most of them were gone. There was only about 3 left. And I took a drive up, quite liked it. And I guess being in the bank and being involved in real estate, your brain goes through those things really quickly about what you should be looking for.
Yeah.
And most people don't. But with 2 hours later or less, I'd seen the house, picked it, paid $1,000 deposit, and settled a month later.
Yeah.
And it's like, most people I hear, like particularly in the Sydney market, for example, is it's like a Hunger Games, right? You're basically trying to beat someone out, and then when I bought the house, it was just me, or the agent walked around, didn't deal, and walked away. And I think that's part of the problem, is the amount of time that most people end up spending on this sort of thing, because they're trying to find the right sort of property, and all that sort of stuff. And I was just lucky that I found the right place at the right time, at the right price. But that's, we are that lucky, I reckon. But I think that's the thing, is it's all about timing. And then if, I guess in your situation, you're telling them, I guess your process works a bit like I'm guessing is that you find out what they want and then start looking for it. And that could pop up at any old time. In terms of that, you have to be ready to kind of jump on it, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's, we don't work with anyone that isn't pre-approved. And biggest reason for that is it can happen at any time and we need to be ready to go. And if you don't have a pre-approval, there's no confidence when we're negotiating because we don't actually know if you can get the money or not. And then we start having to add clauses, finance clauses and whatnot. And then your offer becomes very weak.
Yes.
So yeah, you have to be pre-approved, and then the process becomes, what are you after? What are your goals? What are we trying to achieve? We run a data analysis. We find the best locations for that particular person with that budget, with those goals. And then we go look for it. And we speak to all the agents. We have all the off-market properties available, pre-market properties. We run independent valuations on every single property we find in our target locations. And then we only present the stuff that's under market value. Now, the locations we're buying in, because of the data that we're looking at, generally these are extremely hard areas to buy in. Usually there's nothing for sale and everyone wants to buy in it. The supply to demand
The amount of flyers I get in the mail that for people trying to sell my house over the last 20 years, and they come knocking on your door, they send you flyers, they send you Christmas presents, whatever, they're trying to get you to buy sell that house.
Yeah, and it's because there's no supply in these, in the good.
You're lucky one or two houses come up for sale around this area every few months.
Yeah, the good areas there is no supply, and and there's people that want to buy it. So it's very rare that we find a property that's actually undervalued, and we don't buy anything that's overvalued. So it might take a little bit of time. And then 3 weeks later, I'll email the client and say, "Hey, we've got two properties, both under market value. We need to go." And within an hour, we could have a deal. Obviously, we'll then do our due diligence, and we structure the deals that we do our due diligence after getting a deal. But it's crazy. Like sometimes I'll speak to an agent on a Monday, and he said to me, "Yeah, we're doing an open home on Wednesday, whatnot." And then we say, "Oh, can we get in early?" He's like, "No. Calls me on the Tuesday, property sold. Whoa, what happened there? And then
a mate, there's some friend who,
well, it's a friend, or you find out how much someone paid, and you're like, yeah, fair enough. Don't do an open home. Take that money and run. And especially in a hot market, it's really crazy. But yeah, you got to be ready to rock and roll, and you got to trust the person that you work with to be able to make these decisions for you pretty quickly.
And I think that's a nice thing about it, is that at least you've got someone. I still come back to the whole concept of someone on your side, as opposed to someone trying to make money out of you, really. Because when you follow the money, and ultimately, you've got nothing to win or lose outside a bad reputation of telling someone to do the wrong thing. But at the end of the day, that's it. Your only option is to do the right thing in that situation.
Yeah, definitely. For forever in real estate in Australia, there has been no one representing the buyer. It's always been the seller. And, buyer's agency in the US is very, very common. I think almost 80% of all property transactions in America go through a buyer's agent. Whereas in Australia, I don't know what the numbers are now, but when I started, there was only about 2,000 buyer's agents, as opposed to 75,000 real estate agents. That was 5 years ago. I think buyer's agents probably around the 4,000 or 5,000 mark now, and real estate agents have obviously continued to increase. But no one's there to help the buyer. And a lot of times I speak to people and they say, "Oh, the real estate agent told me this and that." And I said to them, "Look, real estate agents, I know a lot of really good real estate agents, but at the end of the day, they work for the vendor.
They're salesmen. They're gonna say what they have to say to get a sale.
Correct. And they get paid based off the sale price. And so their job is to get the most amount of money for the vendor because they get paid more. And when you speak to a buyer's agent, and there are buyer's agents that you got to be beware of, because they tell you they don't charge. And you think, well, how do you get paid? And usually what these people are doing, they're selling you off the plan house and land package or development site, and they're getting paid from the developer. So obviously then they don't have the best interests of the client at heart. So you really got to speak to and find out where they're getting paid. And, we charge our clients a fee. It's a fixed fee. And that way they know, regardless of the purchase price, regardless of where we buy it, we don't really care. It doesn't affect our Obviously we care, but it doesn't affect our,
Value of the
our
home's
pay
not going to
structure.
affect how much money or time you have to spend on it anyway, isn't
Correct.
it?
So they know that this person actually is trying to help.
Mm.
And then you jump on Google, have a look at reviews, 50, 60, 5-star, whatever it is, and nothing else. And so okay, I can trust this person. They're there to help me. They're going to make sure we get the best result. And I tell my clients, I'm very transparent with my selfishness. If you do really well from my purchase for you, well, a few things are going to happen. You're going to give me a good review, which is always great. But you're going to tell your friends, which is great, because I'm going to get more business. And then you're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to come back to me. So we're all going to make money.
Yeah,
yeah.
The gift that keeps on giving when you think about it. Like when you make a property and make money, right? You're always going to remember the people that are part of that mix, good or bad, in that situation, right?
That's right. And so you have, the trust goes both ways, because I've got to trust that I'm going to do a good job for you. And I know you're going to come back and use me and, tell your friends and help my business grow. So, yeah, for sure.
Makes sense. So, tell me a little bit about who's your best customer that you're looking for. Like someone said, who would I like to do business with right now?
Yeah.
Tell me who that might be. And obviously, it's an Australian market, so this podcast goes out worldwide, but it doesn't really matter. The principles are the same.
Yeah.
But obviously, I will imagine you deal with overseas buyers as well.
Yeah. We've had a couple people from New York and Dubai and China and whatnot, expats usually. That we do get a few foreign buyers, not too many to be honest, because the rules are pretty tough on them.
Pretty strict nowadays.
But yeah, we get a lot of expats that want help buying property. Obviously they're not in the country, so it's pretty difficult for them to do so. But I think our favorite clients really are probably first-time investors. And the reason for that is we get to, firstly, there's no mistakes made so far.
Yeah, the first ones come with the hard one, right? That's the end of your real estate career or real estate portfolio.
That's right. It's a clean slate, so we don't have to carry on any baggage, and we can actually structure a proper portfolio, potential portfolio for these people. And we get to show them like where they're at now, and then in X amount of years, X amount of properties. Hey, you might retire. You could be financially free, and it's a lot easier than people think, as long as there's some sort of strategy. And with the first-time investors, it's a clean slate, so we don't have to fix mistakes or why'd you buy that unit? You're carrying all this debt and you're not making any money on it and things like that. So
it usually ends up being an emotional decision, but I reckon
correct.
You clouded the financials with the emotion, and then the emotion took over. So nice apartment, real estate agent told me this, whatever.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Or it was, or their investment property was a house they lived in, and then they moved out and they didn't want to sell it or something. So it's now an investment, but you're getting a 1.5% yield. It's not really good. So we also, and I love to educate, I love to teach people. So first-time investors, in their 20s or 30s, where they're just so keen to learn as well.
Yeah, they're open to it. Yeah.
Yeah, those are my favorite, to be honest, favorite customers, because it's just they're open to learning. They're open to a new way of purchasing property. A lot of we live in a world of kind of instant gratification now, where people don't want to work and wait. So usually the younger guys are like,
"Why would you want to anyway?" Really, when you think about it.
But the younger guys are like, just do it for me, just do it for me. And where some of my clients, customers who are probably over 45. Kind of grew up in an age where it wasn't instant gratification. You really took your time, and and so when we're working with these guys, it's not that it's difficult or anything, but they want to be a lot more involved in the process, which can slow down the process sometimes, and unfortunately not be in their benefit because
they miss out opportunities they don't want to make fast decisions on.
Correct, which is cool. Like we completely understand it. But yeah, first time investors, I think those are definitely our favorite. Just we get to really shape their portfolio and see their lives changing, and it's pretty cool to tell someone, hey, you know what, we're one property away from financial freedom, or hey, you've done it. If you don't want to work, you don't have to work anymore.
COVID
cool.
certainly taught that a lot of people don't want to come back to work ever.
No one wants to go back, mate. No one wants to work anymore. Is what
I think the biggest mistake governments made was locking people up, because then they realised that life was different, and I think that everybody was fine with the whole illusion of everything, and then suddenly they got locked up and said, "Hey, this is not so bad after all."
Yeah. I don't have to go to work. I can work from home.
Why don't? And I drove back on the M2 yesterday, and it felt like 20 years ago. Like there was so little traffic in comparison. And this is like 6 o'clock at night, which normally is like, wall-to-wall traffic.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's changed. And I thought, well, that can't just be a one-off necessarily. I can't have been that lucky, because I haven't driven that M2 for so long, that they picked a day that was so quiet.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it's a sign of the times. You can see, well, that's pretty easy to know that what's going on. People are spending more time at home. And they're also probably working from home, so they're not going to the city anymore. So a lot of things have changed, and you can't go back to what you thought it was before. So you have to start looking around, paying attention. And I think that's the real estate. People are always going to want a real estate. At the end of the day, they've got to live somewhere, right?
Yeah, 100%. So you always need a roof over your head, and real estate is the only investment in the world that is not dominated by investors. It's dominated by owner occupiers.
Yeah.
Emotions. And because of that, you really got to, navigate the minefield. Otherwise, you're spending a lot more money than you want to.
And that's the problem, is an emotional decision at the end of the day. So tell me, if someone wants to get hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
So if anyone's interested in having a chat, our website, www.firstbrick.com.au, or you can email us at hello@firstbrick.com.au. Cool. Or find us on any social media and send us a message. We'll be there as well.
Yeah, the millions of different messaging apps nowadays.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But you can find the app and link them all to one.
Cool.
Make it easy.
Excellent. And I think it's a valuable service, and I've always believed that having that person on your side is what you need to make sure and follow the money. Like I think if you look at who's paying who, then you'll understand what the outcome is. And I think most people don't think about that. In a lot of things, not just property buying, but anything you're doing. Just think about the money and who gets paid what, and then you'll quickly work out who's on your side.
Yeah, 100%. Well, once you know who's getting paid and from where, you can pretty much figure it out within a second.
What your journey is going to be like, right?
Yeah, that's it, 100%.
Cool. So really appreciate your time, and maybe we'll come back and we'll talk to you again sometime.
No worries. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
That's a wrap on another awesome episode for the Startup Secrets Show for entrepreneurs. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we'd be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. Until next time, if you're an entrepreneur, make a start on your next great business idea today.